So how does ontology relate to accounting? I'm going to go through each of these categories and talk about how accounting can take on these different ontologies and how accounting can be used to perpetuate different ontologies. So let's have a look at accounting within a hard ontology first, which is seeing the world through accounting as an objective truth, or trying to find objective truths through accounting. So accounting information is often seen to be an objective truth about the companies that it's created within. So that profit and loss is the actual value that has been created during the year, and the balance sheet is a record of the total value of a particular company. And that only those categories that are included within the balance sheet are indicative of the value of a particular organisation. Anything left out of the balance sheet doesn't matter. It has no relevance whatsoever. And we see this as being quite a narrow view of a business, and this is a hard ontology, that accounting numbers is the only real objective truth about a company and about a company's performance. But we know that that's probably not a very sophisticated view, or it's not a sophisticated approach. A medium ontology is probably a little better, and that is that we can see accounting from a medium ontology as a generally accepted truth. That accounting isn't not 100% accurate, but it is still useful. It still has elements of truth within it. Accounting is the language of business, it's often been said, and that accounting information, knowing how it's put together and knowing what it's trying to tell us, is very useful. So as a medium ontology, through a medium ontology, accounting as the language of business is continually changing. If we see accounting as an intersubjective truth, then what its methods are and what are the best technical practices, what we consider to be best practices, will be constantly changing. And also the definitions of things like assets, tangible, intangible, revenues, costs will also be constantly changing, which is the case. So as a language system, accounting is a medium ontology. And so accounting is truthful and represents reality to in a semi extent. We understand that it sort of represents reality, but we pretend it does because it is useful to pretend that accounting represents reality. Because everybody thinks that if everybody thinks that accounting represents reality, markets think that accounting represents reality, I have assurance they're going to act in predictable ways, and I'm going to act in the same ways. And within a system, in order for a social system to work, we need to agree on definitions. We need to agree on what is seen to be truthful and valuable. And accounting is the medium to which that occurs. And lastly, accounting as a softer ontology. This asks a slightly different question. It wants to know, as a soft ontology, wants to know the effects of accounting on the mind, or how useful is accounting for people. So we're looking at accounting from a user point of view, but we're also looking at how accounting constitutes the mind. So studies, if we were to take a soft ontology, we'd be trying to understand how, for instance, we can teach accounting and how different concepts are absorbed differently in different cultures. So some cultures are better at understanding the assets, debits and credits system, whilst other cultures might be better at understanding accounting through a relational database schema. Either way, we're trying to understand the effects of accounting, or how to understand accounting from the perception of the user, from the mind. Within this also, we want to understand how accounting affects the mind, how accounting constitutes us as individuals and our perceptions of others and our perceptions of ourselves. So the question we might ask with this soft ontology is, how does the use of accounting change my view of the world? So how does accounting, for instance, make me see people as being, in terms of economic feasibilities, or as assets, or as commodities that I can exchange and that have different values, economic values, to me as someone who wants to maximise their own economic value? We constantly catch ourselves making sort of slight economic feasibility analysis of our relationships with our friends or family. This is accounting having an effect. Also, within this ontology, we can ask questions about how does being seen or being made visible by accounting change how I view myself. So you will one day be working in an organisation where your performance is measured in accounting terms. This is an interesting phenomenon because you now know that your boss and your superiors are going to be looking at you in terms of accounting and these numbers. All of a sudden, these numbers have a deep personal significance for you. All of a sudden, you're narcissistically attached to how these numbers are portraying you. You start seeing yourself in terms of these numbers. So that's a soft ontological view of accounting. Another sort of question we could ask is, how do people use accounting to represent themselves to others? So CSR, some have argued, myself included, John Roberts, Crawford Spence, have argued that CSR reporting is actually an self-communication, auto-communication, where managers produce accounting in order to convince themselves of their own ethics. So people see themselves in accounting, they see themselves in their reports, so they create reports that have a very, very self-righteous or a high moral character to them. And they create embellished, very superior and maybe over the top reports. And they do this because they want to think well about themselves. They want to think well about BHP, BP, Shell. They want to think well about themselves and their role in society. So they make those accounts reflect how they want to be seen, and therefore they can see themselves in those terms. Okay, so we've gone through some concepts, ontology. This is hopefully an interesting start for you for the course. Best of luck this year, and remember, always be reading. Thanks.